Hello and welcome to a new edition of Design for the Times. I'm your host, Richard Christopher Scuderi. Well, I have to say it's our first annual reunion, right? A
Yes.
reunion show. I'll let you guys know that last year, we're shooting now the first episode of season 2. This is the first time we're shooting. And last year, season 1, the most popular episode was this one, the one with the two of you.
Excellent.
It came in 4th out of all the shows on the station. And for a new show, that's a pretty good thing.
That is.
So with that, I'll introduce my guest or reintroduce my guest. To my left, I have Dottie Polak, and she's with Weichert Realtors in the Flemington office. Welcome back to our program.
Thank you.
And with us returning again, his name is John Leahy, and he is with Weichert in the Oldwick office, both in Hunterdon County. So I want to talk about how apropos, right, the new season, 2019. And I want to ask you both, starting with Dottie, what do you see this year, perhaps, as a forecast? You know, the political climate is kind of shaky, but interest rates are kind of good. They went a little bit up and then they went a little bit down. What do you see this year as far as real estate from a business perspective in New Jersey?
From what I've experienced this winter, I'm hoping it's going to be an awesome year, an epic year.
Better year, right?
I am so busy. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, no,
People
it's
are
true.
out there looking. I did an open house last weekend. We had 18 groups come through.
Wow.
They're serious buyers to come out in the cold.
Wow. No, I know.
Yeah.
Right after the doldrums that come after
Serious
the end of the
buyers
holidays.
are out this time of year.
And John, your perspective on the New Jersey real estate market in 2019?
Well, as Dottie says, our early indications on open houses is going to be a very good year.
That's great.
We've noticed large crowds attending the open houses, so it's definitely a seller's market on the lower end of the spectrum.
So let's talk about this. One of the things, as most of the people that follow me on social media know, I do 2 programs. I do the radio program, which we just shot down in Princeton. We came here, and so Dottie was with me today. John, you were with me the week before, and we were talking about the market this year and influences in the market. Did it have to do something with maybe the frenzy that we had first? I mean, interest rates are just ridiculously low, but that bump up in interest rates, did that get people a little cautious maybe?
A little nervous.
Do you
I
think,
had a few people that wanted to hurry up and buy something before they went up.
did they feel maybe they would get less house or maybe they wouldn't qualify if the interest rates went up? But then not too long after that, they came back down again. Sometimes that works, right? Whether it was intentional or non-intentional, sometimes that just little bit of a bump gets people to make a decision. Well, of course, our program is really focused on the fashion of homes and what sells. And so much of our social media, so much of our programs now are based upon not just design anymore, but design related to real estate. Do either one of you have some sort of an explanation you think why the design programs that are on today are really very much more real estate based? Remember when HGTV and some of the other programs first started? They weren't at all, were they?
No,
They
not
were
at all.
specifically sort of fashion driven, and they were about fabrics and they were about beauty and so on. What changed that the programs are really more real estate shows, right? Real estate shows.
I agree.
Yeah, they're mostly real estate shows, but they're also showing people that when they list their homes, that the homes have to be completely done. I mean, you see on these house hunters, these other real estate shows, people don't really want to do any home repairs.
At all.
They want it completely done.
Sure.
And one thing I noticed recently while I was watching some of these shows is that all the houses are getting to look the same. It's all the white kitchen, the marble
walls.
countertop, the gray walls. And I said, there's no character left in these houses. They're just becoming very, very jaded. So.
How about you,
You're
Dottie?
right.
Do you feel
I
the
agree.
same thing?
Everything's the same. When you see a flip house, and you've probably seen the same thing,
Right.
when somebody comes in, buys a house at a very good price and decides to flip it, it's always the same. The
Same.
gray walls, dark floors, marble countertops or something like that. with
And
light cabinets.
I'm actually having clients say they don't, they're getting tired of that and they want something different.
Different. I think there's some truth to that. And one of the things that I've already noticed this year, which was sort of a thing that was kind of risky in the beginning, I'm seeing more people doing their whole kitchen in gray cabinets and not in white cabinets. I'm also seeing the return to cabinets that just aren't white. I did a kitchen this year in Morristown, and we did sort of, it's a stain, but it had a lot of gray with the brown. So it was just different. So I see people maybe a little bit pulling away from white.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that trend's going to continue. I kind of think it is.
I think it will too.
Right.
I see a couple of companies that do kitchen cabinet replacement
Right.
or door replacement,
Right.
and then they do, the trim and everything like that. They've come out with new samples of a pale gray, soft pale green, not like a sagey green, more
No.
like a darker, but
But a green.
but a green.
I know the green you're talking about. I'm trying to articulate it for
Yes.
television. It's a different new green. I saw that
Yes.
recently too. I'm like, wait,
And it
that's
looks
green.
great, yes.
It does. It's very actually rich looking.
Yeah.
I've even also seen, not as much or as popular, maybe just on the island, this gray blue color, like a dark sort of gray blue
Yes, yes.
on the island. And of course, one of the things that I consistently see now is gold hardware. Gold hardware.
You're
Yeah.
finding that?
You know,
Wow.
I am seeing
Well, it's more of a brassy gold, but it's gold.
the gold that comes back. It's like anything else. Things are cyclical and they come back,
Yes.
but they also sort of reinvent them in a way. And what I see very much so with the new higher end kitchens, gold. And the millennials ask me specifically gold. They want gold. Another thing
I do, not to interrupt you, but
No,
I
no.
do see them mixing the gold with copper and the oil rub bronze. I'm seeing
Yeah.
a blend of that where I'm of the old fashioned, everything's got to be the same. But I am starting to see the blend.
It's funny, I think it's sort of generational because I think people that were in our generation started out gold and then it became dated and switched to
Silver.
silver finishes. But younger people are like, oh no, silver's boring. They want gold. So it's just like you could never get it right, It's
Right.
always something else. But it's sort of reinvented in a different way. If we had kept those, a Baldwin brass, shiny brass fixtures, they would take them out because it wasn't the gold they're looking for. Their gold is a matte gold. It's a deeper, rich gold. Almost looks like it's painted. I will tell you something that I do like. I'm not sure that I would do it myself in my own house for resale, is when you have a gray cabinet but with a gold hardware. That looks
That
really
sounds
nice.
nice.
It's a really rich look. I think that the point I want to get with both of you is that styles will always change. What do you advise your clients as far as these days, as far as specifically cabinets? Because people really notice cabinets, right? Really, really notice cabinets. Do you tell them leave them? Or do you tell them if they're dated but in good shape that we have to do something about them? What would you say?
I think it depends on the extent of how dated it is. You take some clients into a house that was built, let's say in 2000 or 2005,
Right.
and they say it's dated. Well,
Right.
you can't afford to change a kitchen
No,
out
it's
every
not
10,
realistic,
15
is
years.
it?
It's
No,
not
I know.
realistic. I said, this is not dated. If you want
No.
to see dated, I'll take you to a house from 1965
Right.
with avocado appliances, and then we can talk about it being dated.
Sure.
So
true.
I think when you're going to a listing appointment and someone has a kitchen that's maybe 20 years old, I think it is what it is.
Right.
It's more important that it's clean, it's organized, and has plenty of counter space and things like that.
Sure.
Sometimes I recommend changing out the appliances because sometimes the appliances look a little worn, and that can also date a kitchen. But as far as the overall kitchen, I think it really depends on how dated it is.
And Dottie and I touched upon this as well. If your cabinets are in good shape and relatively, modern looking, the bigger deal was to make sure that the appliances had a stainless steel finish,
Right.
and that they were matching. And that's what you had brought up when we were doing
Yes.
the podcast earlier. That's a big deal where you go into people's house and they have maybe one white appliance, one almond appliance, and one black appliance.
Right.
Would
With the cabinets, another good thing to do is just change out the hardware.
Right.
Yeah, hardware makes
That
a big
makes
difference.
a big difference.
Right.
Just that can bring it up to date too.
Right.
How do you feel about just replacing the doors? Often people don't have the budget, or maybe the boxes themselves were really well made or custom made. It's just that maybe they have a cathedral arch and they want the look of more of a shaker style,
Yeah.
and they replace the doors. How do you feel about that?
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Do
definitely.
people discern enough that they open the inside of that cabinet and say, well, this is not the original door, or not really? They're just looking for that
People
profile.
don't know. People
They
don't
don't
know.
I think they look. Sometimes they look at space. Very rarely does someone open a kitchen cabinet, unless the realtor itself wants to show that maybe they have pull-out drawers.
Yeah, looking
or
for pullouts, I think they
something
would.
like that.
Yeah.
But normally they don't go through kitchen cabinets.
Let's talk about countertops, because as much as styles have changed with cabinets, styles have changed, I think, even more for countertops. Because we went through the years, remember Dottie, in the years that we were working, Dottie used to work with me as a decorative artist for years, where, you know, everybody wanted granite, it had to be granite, and then there were periods of different style granite. It started with the greens, with the Ubatuba and the Verde Butterfly, then it went sort of to the brown tan and the Baltic brown and the brown black ones. Then it went through the period that was all the beiges with the Santa Cecilia and those stones. Then the giallos with sort of a peachy kind of look. So it did evolve with stone. Now you don't see that at all. Now I see people specifically, if I'm replacing a kitchen countertop, asking me pretty much solely for quartz. What about you guys out there? People saying,
Oh, definitely,
does it have
because
quartz?
quartz has the durability that people are looking for, and people feel, especially if they've never had granite, that there's this maintenance factor with granite. But being someone who's had a granite kitchen for 20 years, you know, maintenance was never an issue and it never stained. But you know, people are looking for quartz. They're looking for that different look.
Right.
So they can get the look of marble or the look of slate without having the maintenance of marble.
Now, what do you
slate.
think about that?
I agree. I think with this new trend in the neutral colors and
Right.
everything the same color and basic, I think the granite has a very busy pattern to it. And people coming up looking at homes now want something more subtle pattern like the quartz
Simplistic.
has.
Here's something that I've noticed, and to this I have to agree to John's point. Sometimes I watch the West Coast shows, Southern California, the coast, where it's super expensive. And particularly there, which always lends itself to be more contemporary than the East Coast, the rooms don't even photograph attractive anymore. They don't photograph attractive. We had Marissa Pellegrini on her, who shot a lot of my stuff for Design New Jersey magazine, about or finding the beauty in a room and how you do that. But when I watch some of the West Coast programs of when they redo houses, they just look like white cubes. And I noticed in the West more than here, because I think we're still doing the grays and the grayish. There it seems, or at least it reads on film, that the walls are white. And there's no delineation between the trim, although in contemporary there's often less trim. There's no delineation between the trim or depth. And when you look at a white cube, a white box, it doesn't even look all that attractive. I know that you said that's something you had noticed. I've noticed that myself too, that it's getting to the point that it's not even that appealing anymore. And when a house is a astronomical price, you want to have qualities that make it unique.
Yeah.
Definitely. I don't see neutrality going away, but I do see things going to trend and things going to change this year. I definitely will see, I think we're going to see other finishes for cabinets. The manufacturers of appliances have been trying desperately to get people away from the look of stainless steel, because it's an impetus.
There's that dark stainless now,
Yeah,
like
the-
oil or bronze stain.
Right.
Stainless.
There's a black stainless or
Right.
something that looks like oil rub bronze. I don't feel, and I don't know why they're not catching on as much, are they?
No, because I
Why
think
is
people,
that?
well, people look back of trends over the years, and you think back of the '60s with avocado appliances and the gold appliances of the '70s,
Right.
and then, so people realize it's a trend where stainless steel is commercial looking. It's pretty standard, and
Sure.
I think people are afraid that their appliances are going to become outdated if they go with something a little different.
Dottie and I talked about something earlier in our podcast about price point and stainless steel. Now, years ago, if you had stainless steel, it was like a luxury, right? Like, who had stainless steel? Then it became like you had to have stainless steel, otherwise nothing. Would you say in the New Jersey market anyway, which is expensive, that there's a price point where you just assume that you replace them with stainless steel? You don't have to buy the premium and most expensive appliances, but they need to be stainless steel. They cannot be anything but stainless steel.
Well, I think if you have a home that's in a market where there's a lot of competition and you want to set yourself apart from the competition, then you need to have the stainless steel.
But if someone has, I would say, now I'm a designer, I'm not a realtor, I would say if someone has black appliances and they're new, people are still going to view that as a negative. What do you think, Dottie?
I'll get the person every now and then that doesn't like the stainless, but that's rare.
Right. But I mean, black at one point, people were considering
Yes.
more modern and an upgrade. I find that people perceive that as a negative.
Yeah.
Also, white people think is basic, and they don't want that. They'll have a washer and dryer that's white,
Right.
not a problem, but not appliances.
They consider that like a builder grade.
Right. It's like it's a step down. Even if it's a more quality appliance,
True.
people still don't white when it comes to appliances. Let's move on to bathrooms, because I think bathrooms, as we said earlier, are also very personal, right? I mean, maybe even more than a kitchen, a bathroom is kind of personal. And let's start with master bath, because I think master bath is the most important for resale in a house. And we talked earlier about the importance of what in the master.
2 sinks.
2 sinks, critical, right?
Definitely.
I see people still making that mistake when they flip. They're putting 1 sink.
Yeah.
I looked at a house in the summer in Mountainside, and they did a pretty complete renovation of a Tudor house, which is kind of tricky in itself because there's a lot of dark wood. And the master bath had the room for 2 sinks, and they put a really expensive vanity with 1 undermount sink. And I thought, how foolish.
Yeah.
Not only does the 2 sinks have a practical standpoint in terms of how it's laid out, but besides the second sink, it's just you have more counter space, right? So that makes it different. What are people asking you for in masters? Are people really still much more concerned now about the shower, or are people, is a tub a critical thing in the master anymore? Or is the tub thing sort of dissipated because people are looking for a great shower?
I think people would rather have a great shower. I think that's what they're looking for. Especially when they go in and they see jets or steam shower. That's what they're looking for. Something with a little room to move around, even with a shower with a seat is in demand. And as far as tubs are concerned, people are trying to get away from the tubs with the big surround and go with maybe a freestanding tub.
But I would also say not just the surround, but the jacuzzi tub itself has become something that people don't seem to like in the house anymore. They feel
Nobody
that
uses it.
well, I think the consensus now is that that's dirty water or water that gets recycled or not clean or so on. What they have now is an air jet tub.
Right.
The technology has changed. I don't know that this may be a sexist thing to say. I always think that even in the work that I do, it's women that want a tub in the house, and often it's to bathe children. So it's not necessarily about the jets, but it's about a tub that they could maneuver
Convenience for
and do
kids.
that.
Yeah.
Would you both say, or individually, that it is, though, important to have at least 1 tub in the house? If it's a 4-bedroom house, at least somewhere in the house, or not necessarily for resale to have a tub in the house? I'll start with Dottie.
I think it is important to have a tub in a house. I get that question all the time.
Right.
I had a listing a couple of years ago where it was only 1 bath. Yes, it was only 1 bath, 1 full bath upstairs, and it was a shower.
Okay.
And it was a 4-bedroom.
Wow.
And we ended up taking it off the market for a couple of weeks. They redid the bathroom, put a tub in, and 2 weeks after that, it sold.
Yeah, I think that's critical. What do you think, John, on that?
Yeah, I agree with Dottie on that. A tub is critical. You have to have at least 1 tub in the house.
But not necessarily in the master.
Not necessarily in the
No.
master, no.
But people are looking, I think, for a really good shower, right?
Yeah,
Definitely.
definitely.
Spacious shower.
Yes.
Yeah.
And different from the beginning when I had some premium houses, and people went nuts and turned their shower into a car wash. And as they did that and they spent all that money, I said, you're going to regret this and never use this. And revisiting those people down the road now, they say, yes, they only turn it on when they're cleaning the shower. It's too much. It has to be, I think, well thought out. But space, right? A volume space.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then still frameless shower enclosures are popular, would you say? Mm-hmm. Seeing anything new in that? Or have you gone to some houses now and people have done? Every day, last night I went to a house, I see things I've never seen before, learning experiences, things that are new. Anything that either one of you have seen in a resale house or an open house that you thought was interesting, new, different, good or bad?
Well, I'd seen a house recently, higher-end market house, where it had the tub and the shower all in 1 room.
Okay.
So you went through the shower doors and the tub was in the shower,
Okay.
which I thought was pretty neat because then you could take a bath and then get out of the bathtub and kind of shower off. All
And
in
so the
same
wet
room.
area is in all one
It's all 1 room.
area because of I kind of like that. I don't know if that's going to work for the masses, but I think that must look nice too,
Yeah.
almost like a silhouette.
Right.
Yeah.
And especially because it was a steam shower.
Right.
So I just thought that was pretty neat.
A funny thing that I really thought was going to begin to did you were going to say something? I didn't know. Something that I thought was going to trend is when I was doing a little bit more tile in kitchens than I'm doing now. People were really radiant heat had changed, so it was less expensive. The technology had changed with the tubing, and people were doing heated floors in their kitchens and their sunrooms. I don't see that as much anymore. Are you seeing people doing heated floors, even in models in new construction, the new construction that's in New Jersey? I'm not seeing heated floors so much.
I find it every now and then, but no, I'm
Not
not
common.
seeing it.
No.
Now, I thought that houses, which they have gotten smaller, but that the creature comforts would be better. And I really thought in our Northeast environment that the heated floor would really become popular. I don't know why that hasn't happened, but I don't think that has happened.
I think it's because you cannot adjust the heat that quickly.
All
So
right.
let's say if you wanted to turn the thermostat up 5 degrees, with a heated floor, it may take a little longer to get up to temperature than, let's say, hot water or hot air. The other thing is on a reno, a lot of people were using those electric floor heaters.
Right.
And I think the electricity just got to be a little expensive.
Expensive. Oh, that
So
could be
people
part
have
of
kind
it.
of, torn away from that.
Speaking of that and utilities, we only have about 6 minutes left, and I want to cover a little bit about houses that are green. I know that's a hot button probably with your husband, right? And technology and things that are out there, things that you guys have seen. Do either one of you get a request as part of the basic profile of what they're looking for it to be green or fuel efficient?
I get that question every now and then. I have somebody who is looking for that, or if he cannot build, he's going to try and incorporate that into a purchase. He's going
Okay.
to try to do either something with, and I'm at a loss for words, where you take it from the ground.
Geothermal.
Oh,
Thank you,
geothermal.
geothermal. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Yes.
John, what about you? Or is that's I think having known you now, that's probably a hot button for you personally of doing something that was not necessarily green, but something that's efficient.
Right, but I think the average buyer today is looking for a home that has they prefer natural gas
Right.
over, let's say, oil or electric or propane. So that may be. I think people look at the furnace, they look at the age of the furnace, how efficient it is, and how efficient the overall cost of heating and cooling the house would be. I haven't gotten much demand for geothermal because I think a lot of people aren't familiar with it.
I think people are still afraid of it.
Right.
And it's also very green. Not only is it efficient, it's clean.
Right.
Yeah. So it seems to me that in terms of technology, although we're talking a lot about things being more efficient, people really haven't embraced or done the homework with the technology side of stuff. Maybe audio-wise or a little, that kind of thing. But in terms of heating and cooling, HVAC, I would say probably from a design standpoint, not. From a realtor standpoint, it sounds like not also.
Right. I mean, I think people buy a home today, and if they want the technology, they want to put, speakers in or, large screen television, they're going to do that on their own. That's not going to be the decision on whether they buy the house or not.
It seems more that people, and because people are going, in our case, because we're on the East Coast, they're going further east or further towards urban areas. They want to tie into city water and sewer. That's a big deal, and to natural gas lines, and less about, I think, alternate energy. It's there, but not a big. I don't see a lot of inquiries in that.
Yeah, I do have a lot of people not asking for specifics, like you said, like oil. They prefer the gas.
Do either one of you put on a regular basis the people's utility bills out so they can see what the utility
I get
bills are?
requests for utility bills.
Especially on the bigger properties.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you have people inquiring about a house, they will usually ask to see utility bills. So I always advise my clients to have that information ready so that when someone asks. But again, usage is all going to depend on the person controlling the thermostat.
And if you have somebody home full-time compared to somebody that goes to work all day,
Right.
that's going to change the whole. And I try to express that also when I'm handing over the bill.
Pools. We did a show, probably our second to last show of the first season was all about pools. People either love them or hate them. More where we are in the Northeast, I'll start with you, Dottie, more of a positive or a negative of a pool?
I don't get either. If a house has a pool, I'll get, wow, awesome, that's great. Or I'll get somebody that will say, I have to have a pool. Or if there's not, make sure there's room and the septic's not in the way because I want to put in a pool.
John, pools, positive or negative?
Same with Dottie. I mean, it's not really a decision maker.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever, either one of you, lost a potential sale because there wasn't a pool or a room to do a pool?
I had one that had a pool, and he said, if I buy this house, I'm closing it up.
I've seen a good amount of listings where they fill in the pool.
Yeah.
I guess there's some.
I think it all
liability
depends on the age of the pool and what type of pool it is. If it's a gunite pool, it's one thing, but if it's a liner and there's problems with the liner and the sides have begun to kind of fall in, then that kind of steers people away.
With about 2 minutes left, I want to get your last thoughts on just a couple of quick things that you could say are good for resale. I'll start by saying clean counters. Dottie?
Declutter,
Yeah.
definitely. Put things away.
Neutral paint colors?
Neutral paint colors.
Clean.
Clean.
Make sure the house is
Clean.
clean.
Okay,
When you know there's showings, if you have the ability, leave the lights on
Right.
everywhere.
exactly.
Take a lot of the window treatments off, so bring a lot of light in, make it light and airy.
How about continuity of surfaces?
Very important. I showed a house the other day where the first floor had 3 different types of floor,
Exactly.
and it doesn't go over well.
Right. And also something that you and I were talking about earlier about something that we do differently, I do differently now, continuity of paint color, picking a neutral, a grayish, a middle of the road color that works, and then really carrying it from room to room more than we were before, giving that sort of visual continuity, and just maybe having some color breaks in things like powder rooms or bathrooms or smaller spaces. So,
Yes, definitely.
okay, why don't we just say for our viewers, Dottie, how can they get in touch with you?
Weichert Realtors in Flemington. My phone number is 609-357-8436. Or
Terrific.
Dottie Polak at Comcast.net.
Wonderful. And John, how can they get in touch with you?
I'm at the Old Wick office, Northern Hunterdon County. My number is 908-878-2565, and my email is leahyoldwick, one word, @gmail.com.
Terrific. And I know you guys both are busy, and I hope that means that we're going to have a more productive and better year this year. People have to keep in mind that every time they make a change or they put a little money out there, it rolls our economy, because then that person makes some money and then the next person makes some money. So it's very important, I think, that we continue this trend.